It's not always easy to come in and be that new guy, replace somebody else, but you did it. You did it effortlessly.
For sure, man. They kind of pay me a lot of money, so I got to do what I got to do, bro.
The Next Man Up podcast is presented by Lansdowne Resort. From kickoff to check-in, score a game-changing getaway in the heart of Loudoun. Lansdowne Resort, proud partner of the Washington Commanders. Commanders family, our Next Man Up is a newcomer this year. But boy, he looks like he's been here for years because of how comfortable he looks, because of how he's elevated everybody around him. Welcoming in for the first time on Next Man Up, my guy Javon Kinlaw. What's up, brother?
Lord, what's happening?
Hey, brother, it's cool, man. It's crazy to sit here with you. Like, I see you all the time walking around, but we haven't sat and done an interview since you signed, man. And a lot's changed since then. So first things first, how you doing, man? How's it been?
I'm excellent, brother. And loving it, enjoying my time here. Shoot, just happy to be somewhere. Everybody believe in me. It's good vibes everywhere. Great people. They built this thing up the right way.
Yeah, and you saw all the people believing in you. Dan Quinn, we spoke to him yesterday, and he just had nothing but great things to say about you. And it's mostly because of how quickly you immersed yourself in what we had going on. We already had some good things going last year. It's not always easy to come in and be that new guy, replace somebody else, but you did it. You did it effortlessly.
Well, shoot, man, they kind of pay me a lot of money, so I got to do what I got to do, bro. Nah, but, man, I take pride in my learning curve, and I adjust quick. I adjust on the fly, and that's what I do, and that's what's got me here, and it's going to continue to elevate me throughout the years.
What about this system has made it a little easier for you to acclimate and be able to find so much success early?
Well, we do a couple of different things schematically, but most of the time it's what I've always been used to, just penetrating, getting off the ball, causing havoc, clearing things up for other guys. But they got me playing a lot of defensive end this year, and it's new, but, I mean, it's still the same thing, just striking somebody. And, shoot, man, I love being able to play here, play there, so they can't really try to zone in on me being on one spot. And it's worked out in our favor for sure.
And sometimes new things, especially doing a new position, can be scary, right? But on the flip side of that, it can also be really exciting. And I feel like you find it exciting every chance you get to live on that DN. Why is that?
I mean, it's a guy my size, so it's like, I ain't got to bend that low. Sometimes on the inside, them guys 6'2", 6'1", and you got to really focus on your pad level. But when I get out there, it's guys my size, so it's like, okay, bet. So I know I can bend lower than this dude, so let me go and get him out the way.
It's funny you use the word size because I was talking to Daron Payne about getting to play with you. And I think we were only like 2 weeks in, and he says you have this mantra, if you will, play big.
For sure.
Play big. You tell him to play big. Can you put that into your own words to explain what you try to get off when you tell him that and you tell these other young guys play big?
Well, just playing next to DP, it's been one of my favorite guys to play next to, just because we kind of have the same mindset on some things, just like that effort mentality. We don't really take nothing from nobody, and that's always good to play next to a guy like that, knowing he got my back and I got his. And whether I talk to him or whoever else, they know how I'm coming, man. I take pride in being physical. I take pride in just showing my aggression, showing my passion on the field, and I try to get that and instill that in the other guys, and I think I'm doing a good job of that. Physically, I could be more vocal sometimes, but, man, I just let the pads do the talking most of the time.
That's been what's really dope about watching y'all play this season. It seems as if y'all bring the best out of each other. Truly, y'all are playing y'all blessed ball together. And Dan Quinn said it. He said these guys are like one. They're extremely interchangeable. They're very much the same guy. They have that same mentality. How valuable is that to play along somebody like that?
It means a lot, bro, knowing he going to go out there and try to do the same thing that I'm doing, maybe in a different way, different play styles, but we both take pride in that, and it's been awesome, bro. It's been awesome, man. I hope I can play next to him for as long as I can, bro, because it's really been a blessing for sure.
I think we're all hoping that, man. We love you in the burgundy and gold. We don't want to see you anywhere else. And you're helping the young guys get along as well. A guy in Johnny Newton had some injuries last year, now really coming to his own, had a sack last game. Man, how cool is it to help the young man grow? Because much like Daron and yourself, he a dog as well.
Well, bro, he going to make a lot of money, bro. Just watching him, super explosive, one of the more explosive guys in this league. And the things he does, his power, but, he can play on guys' edges too. And he can reset the line of scrimmage like crazy if you're really watching him. He's just different, man. He's just different. And his role was kind of similar to mine, where you coming out, you going through some injuries, and you get in the league and you going through some injuries, and people, they doubt you, but, you just got to stay true to yourself. And he's done a heck of a job doing that with him being a younger guy, super young. I think probably the youngest guy in our room. And yeah, man, I'm loving playing next to him too. He's another guy that's got that same mindset where he don't really care. He just gonna go out there and do his job and do it to the best of his ability.
And across the defensive line, you guys have so many guys that are just like that. And you look at a guy in Dorrance Armstrong, man, what a year he's having. I feel like he's almost like the best kept secret in the NFL. Like, I feel like he's not getting that recognition or love he deserves. Can you just speak on what you've seen from Dorrance this year? Because what he's doing, he's topping a lot of categories in the NFL.
100%. And I've always watched Dorrance. Even when he was with the Cowboys, I've always been a fan of his and how he rushes the passer. But just being in the same room as him, I mean, you understand why he sacks the quarterback. Again, another guy that's just like F it. Like, he don't care. He going to just try to go and get the job done no matter how it look. If it's ugly, you getting a sack. If it looks good, you're going to get a sack. So he's a super intelligent guy on the field as well. And man, it's just been a blessing to be around so many good ball players, man, so many versatile ball players.
And all you guys are very versatile. Y'all showed that last week against the Chargers. Man, what a defensive effort. It's not every day you see somebody come out the gate down 10 points, right? Give up 10 points quickly, but then all of a sudden, we ain't give up a point the rest of the game. Right. What is that conversation amongst yourselves? What's that conversation Joe Witt's having, calling down, letting you guys know, like, how do y'all make those adjustments in real time and not give up a single point for 3 quarters?
Well, I mean, you just got to lock in internally, bro. Everybody can say what they want when we come into halftime, but it's all about you internally and what you're trying to get done and what you're trying to establish out there. And I think we all do a good job of looking ourselves in the mirror, and that's what matters the most. You can say what you want, but if you're not looking yourself in the mirror, nothing else don't matter, bro. And I see some guys, when we come in, just focused on what they need to be focused on. I hear some of the conversations, guys talking about this, talking about that, and that's a beautiful thing, whether we up or down at half, and that's what you want to see. And that's how great defenses are made, for sure.
And even hearing you talk right now, you can tell you've really dived into this leadership role on this defensive line. You're really somebody that everybody is looking at to really set that tone. Is that a new position for you, right? Because, I mean, you're still a young man yourself. Right. Has this been a journey getting to be that leader? Because Dorrance says it all the time, like he has to learn to find his voice because he's being asked to be a leader. I know you have a very strong voice, man. What has it been like being a leader for this young team?
Bro, I've always been a tone setter, even from being younger. I've always been a tone setter. I've always took pride in, somebody got to start it off. Somebody got to kick this off. And just being a little older now, I know what I need to say to certain guys to get them going, or I just know what I need to do out there to, get the fire started. And, it's been a blessing that people feel as though I'm a leader on this team. I definitely didn't come into it thinking that was going to be the role, but more so I just came in ready to work, ready to be around the guys and fit in where I can. And it's worked out well.
Every person I've spoke to on the defensive line, whether it was a young person, whether it was somebody that's a veteran, I've asked them about that mentorship and the kind of game either they're receiving or the type of game that they're giving. And one thing has always been recovery. Right. One thing has been taking care of your body. And our partners down at Lansdowne Resort, they want to see y'all get it done on the field, but they also want to know that y'all are doing those things to wind down, to relax, to get some downtime, man. How does Javon Kinlaw get his downtime when he's not wreaking havoc on quarterbacks and running backs?
Yeah, I mean, I've purchased the sauna, infrared sauna.
Oh.
I have a hyperbaric chamber, like a hard chamber like they have in here. And those are the two things that I live by. I do yoga. I do a lot of body work. I'm a big guy, man, so I need like 3 hours of body work every session. I play a lot of 2K, get my mind right. But other than that, I just like to chill, man. I'm laid back. I don't really do too much. I don't go nowhere. So I put a lot of focus in on my body for sure. I mean, you have to when you play the game so physical. The next day you feel like you've been in a car accident. Nah, for real. But you got to take care of yourself.
You nice at 2K?
Yeah, for sure.
You be on my player regular?
Yeah, whatever though. But
yeah,
I play on my career for sure.
Okay, all right, we're gonna find out after this, man. I'll definitely send you an ass. So it's funny, man. We talk about Daron. His answer, and I don't know if you noticed. I know that's your guy, so I don't know if you noticed about him. His answer was that he snowboards.
Yeah.
Did you know that about him?
We talked about that. He made me want to do it. If he could do it, I feel like I could get into it too.
I'm just trying to imagine people y'all size, man, barreling down a slope, bro. You really gonna try to snowboard?
Better not fall. But yeah, I mean, why not? You know what I'm saying? Like, The older you get, you got to get into more things, man. Got to kind of find out what's your hobbies. You know, I'm still trying to figure out what's my real hobbies. You know, I've gave so much to this game and been through so much injuries. So in the off season, I really haven't had a lot of time to figure out, you know, what I like to do outside of the game. So I think I might pick that up. Who knows, man? I don't know if they got the little boots my size or, you know, the drip. You know, I'm going to be all about the drip.
You got to be fresh, man. They definitely got some flies.
100.
They'll sure Daron hook you up, man. And
Right.
you mentioned the injuries. You mentioned the career that you had up in this point. Seems like right now, if I'm speaking, it seems like it's the best season you've had, right? It seems like this is the best fit for you. What is going right for Javon Kinlaw in this year here with the Washington Commanders?
I'm healthy, bro. Every year I get a little bit more healthy. I feel a little bit more younger every year. I don't know how. That's probably the good man upstairs, but yeah, this is my third year in 6 years. Just being able to go through everything, the whole process, not missing a day, being able to just continue to stack these days, and you know it's paying off. And I've always knew that one day it would pay off, and it's gonna continue to just get better. Like I have no idea where the ceiling is for me. You know, I have no idea, but I'm gonna find out for sure.
Oh, yeah, man. And
Yeah.
we're happy to be a part of that journey
Yes,
as
sir.
well, man. It's been great seeing you. And in closing, man, you got the shades on. You a primetime player.
Yeah.
And primetime players make primetime plays. And Monday night, we're going to be on Monday Night Football for primetime against the Chicago Bears. What can Commander fans expect? We've been on the road for a little bit. We coming back to the crib. What can fans expect?
I mean, they're going to see aggression. They're going to see passion, a lot of violence. I'm going to be flying around for sure, having fun. Just being at the crib is different. But I'm definitely going to be flying around, bro, and it's going to be nighttime. So, you know, the real dogs come out at night. And, you know, I'm going to just look up and show out for the fans for sure.
Boy, hey, man, that's a mic drop right there. I can't say nothing better than that. Commanders family, our next man up, having a career year, and we're so happy to have him back this way. Our guy, Javon Kinlaw.
Yes,
Appreciate you,
sir.
brother.
Appreciate you, bro.
Commanders family, we hope you are enjoying Next Man Up. Now, before we get to a very special legend, we got to pay some bills. So, Commanders fans, this is for you. Level up with the brand new AAA Commanders MVP membership. You'll receive all the benefits of AAA, such as 24/7 roadside assistance, plus chances to win game tickets, access to exclusive team events and experiences, along with 15% off Commanders gear at the online pro shop. Already a AAA member? Add the Commanders MVP membership for free. That's right, for free. Head to AAA.com/Commanders to upgrade or join the squad and put your fandom in drive. Now, back to the show. Commanders family, for our next man up, this legend is possibly the best to ever do it at his position, is the all-time scoring leader for Washington, a former MVP, a former Super Bowl champion. He did all this while being a place kicker. Welcoming in Mark Moseley to the show for the first time. Mark, thank you so much for your time, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you. Sorry we had some trouble getting hooked up here, but hopefully you can see me.
Oh, yes, sir. I can see you. You look good. You sound
All right.
good. You look young, Mark. And again, we are just so happy to have you on because for the Next Man Up podcast, we like to not only just talk about football, but we like to go back, right? We like to talk about the person that made all their dreams come true, right? And years
All
ago,
right.
in the 14th round of the NFL draft, your dreams were made true. You were drafted into the NFL and had 2 seasons where you kind of jumped around a little bit. I want to stay there for those first 2 seasons. What was that like back in the day when you were able to make your NFL dreams come true?
Well, to give you an honest appraisal of my career, I grew up in Ecuador, South America, in the jungles of the Amazon. And I know people don't even know that about me. But when I was a kid, my father was asked, he had his doctorate degree in agriculture, and he was asked to go to Ecuador to find a crop that the farmers over there could grow and improve their annual income, which was about $200 a year. And when we got over there, he discovered that they could go bananas. And so my dad is responsible for introducing bananas to Ecuador, which are now the #1 banana producer for Chiquita bananas in the world. And when we got back, I was in the 6th grade, and I started playing football in the and the way it happened was when we first came back to the States, my dad asked me if I wanted to drive around town. Little Livingston, Texas is just a small East Texas town, about 65 miles north of Houston. And so we started driving around and we saw the big lights on up at the football field. So Dad drove us up there, and it was me and my younger brother, who was at that time was pretty tiny. I think he was in the first or second grade, and I was in the sixth grade when we came back. And we noticed that there was some kind of sporting event going on, and it was a football game. So I got out of the car and was watching the football game through the fence. And my dad was trying to explain to me what was going on. And then all of a sudden, everything stopped. The players went off the field, went into the dressing room. The band came out on the field, and 5 really pretty girls came out on the field. And I didn't know what this was, but Dad said, I think it's homecoming. And sure enough, after a few minutes, they one of the football players came out of the dressing room with some flowers, went out to present these flowers to the one of the girls, the queen, and gave her a kiss. And I turned around to my dad and I said, Dad, what do I need to do to learn how to play football? So that was my encouragement. That's what started me in football. But as far as those first 2 years, I never really thought about playing professional football. Back in my day, we didn't have but one game usually on Sunday. And they would, those games, it was usually the Dallas Cowboys or the Houston Oilers. And so I was a big Oiler fan. And when I was drafted by the Eagles in 1970 in the 14th round, I didn't really know what I was getting into. I was still a virgin at that. I didn't have any idea what was expected of me other than to show up in good shape and be willing to try to win a spot as a kicker. And sure enough, I ended up beating out Sam Baker, who had been the longtime kicker for all that time. And it just worked out. I made the team. I had a fairly decent year. It wasn't a really great year my first year in the league, but then they decided to draft another kicker after that season, and they drafted Happy Feller from the University of Texas. And then I went on and he got the job. I ended up in Houston kicking for the Houston Oilers my second year in the league. And then again, in my third season, I was cut right after the first regular season game and ended up sitting out 2 years. I didn't play most of 72 and all of 73. I played one game in 72, and then I played the full, I didn't play any games in 73. But then in 74, I got a call one morning early just before the draft, and Coach George Allen was on the other line, and he introduced himself, and he said, I remember a couple of years ago when you were with the Oilers, you kicked several field goals for your team in a driving rainstorm, and I need a kicker who can get me 3 points in any kind of game, in any kind of weather. And he said, I think you're that guy. So he said, I want to send you a contract if you've been working out, if you're in good shape. I said, yes, sir, I'm ready to go. He sent me a contract for, I think it was $19,000. And I signed on with the Washington Redskins and ended up, when I got to camp, there was 9 other kickers that I had to beat out. And I ended up winning the job, and the rest is history.
Wow, Mark, what a story. And you're right, the rest is history. And the rest is honestly some of the best history we have here in the Burgundy and Gold. So let's run it back real quick, because you mentioned that time where you were cut and then you were looking for a job. Now, during the research of this, I don't know if this is true, you can let me know. I read that you had sent letters, handwritten letters to teams all across the league saying, hey, do you need a kicker? Give me a chance to try. Was that true?
Yep, I did. I sent letters and phone calls to everybody, and I got no returns until George Allen called me on that. It was a February morning, and my wife had already left for work, and I was getting ready to go to work. And I mean, it was a shock. I didn't think I was going to get a chance again, but I always had confidence that I could do it. I knew if I could get back in, I could do it, because I did it 2 years, and I did a fairly decent job. And I just, for somebody that didn't know what he was really doing, I did okay. But I knew what to do when I got back in. And in 74, when I came to Washington, I was ready to play football.
And that's not really something that's easy for anybody to do, right? There's a level of humbleness that comes with taking the time to write a letter and send it out and saying, hey, give me a shot. When you look back at the young man that did that then, what drove that? Because you could have said, you know what, hey, I did 2 years, I'm done. But you felt a need to get back into the NFL. Where did that need come from, and how tough was that period? Because I gotta imagine while you're sending these letters out, waiting, nobody's responding, I gotta imagine that is hell on a young man.
Yeah, it was discouraging. There's no doubt about that. But like I said, I always had confidence in what I was doing and what I could do, and I knew that I could compete and that I could kick in the NFL after those first 2 seasons. I just needed the opportunity, and I was fortunate that I had a great mom and dad that supported me and were always there and were always encouraging all through those years. My dad was a very intelligent man, as I said, had his doctorate in agriculture, but was it just had a lot of common sense. And he always said anything worth having is worth working for. And so I spent those 2 years that I was out of football really working hard. And I came back in '74 about 20 pounds heavier with solid muscle, and I was kicking the ball really well. And I did some crazy things to work out back in those days. I was young, had excuse the expression, had a lot of piss and vinegar, and so I was willing to do just about anything to get myself in shape and to get stronger and be there. If the opportunity came, I was gonna take advantage of it, and that's exactly what I did when I came here in '74.
What were some of those unique things you were doing to get yourself back right? What were some of those unique workouts you were doing? Because, hey, if it worked for you and it got you an eventual MVP, I think we have some kickers around the league that should take that advice as well.
Well, every day I was, being raised in a small town, country town. My father owned an international harvester business, and he knew all the farmers. So I had been billing other farmers commercially for years, ever since I was in junior high, actually. And so I was hauling hay all summer, and then I would come in the afternoons after hauling hay all day, and in those hot barns down in Texas, and go up to the football field and kick and run the stands. I used to carry. We didn't have these weight vests that they have today, so I used to carry some cement blocks with a towel wrapped around my neck, and I tied them onto a couple of cement blocks, and I would run up and down the stands with those cement blocks kind of leaning against my chest, and I would run those for 20, 30 minutes without stopping. Then I would, my wife at the time, I took her, she would get on my back, and I would do 100-yard wind sprints with her on my back to help strengthen my legs. And then on top of that, my dad, when I was in high school, had taken an old car frame and hooked a chain to it and put a harness on it. And I used to pull that car frame up and down the hayfield behind the barn. And so all those things led to the point. And then too, I started hauling pulpwood. And most people out there don't understand what pulpwood is, but down in East Texas back in the '60s and '70s, when you were hauling pulpwood, you would cut these 5-foot lengths of wood, and then you'd flip them onto your shoulder and you'd carry them over and put them on a trailer and haul them out a cord at a time. But most of those pieces of wood would weigh anywhere from 150 to 400 or 500 pounds, and you'd have to flip them on your shoulder and walk over and then flip them onto a trailer and then carry them out and load them on a truck. Well, I did that for two off seasons, my last 2 years of college, and then I was doing it too when I was out of football those 2 years. And so when I came back in, I had some really strong legs. I remember when I first went into the training room with the weight room with our training coach. They couldn't believe how much I could squat, and I used to work out with 625 pounds squats, which was really unheard of. I could out squat all the linemen, and they couldn't believe I had such strong legs. But that was just from what I did physically as a country boy.
Giving it up like a true Southern boy, a true Texas guy. And normally during this part, I ask the Washington Legends what their favorite part of their time with the Burgundy and Gold is. But I gotta just assume it doesn't get much better than winning the MVP as a place here, especially with a shortened season with all those things going on. Can you take us back there to that season where you're on this run, where you're just hitting this streak of field goals, where it seems like you cannot miss? Can you bring us back to that?
Well, yeah, that was an unusual year. I was supposed to not be on the team that year. They had drafted Mike Flater, who was a kicker for, I think, University of Miami. They brought him in to compete against me, and they thought they were, because I was 33 that year, and they were trying to replace me. But Coach Gibbs was still in my corner, and I just for some reason it just was at the right time in my career. I really felt confident. Every kick that I went out there to kick, I felt like I was going to make. I never thought about missing, but I was strong. I was at my strongest point. They kick 60-yard field goals today with ease. Back in our day, if you kicked any 50-yard field goals, that was unusual. I remember one year I got a letter from Coach Allen congratulating me on making more 50-yard field goals than the rest of the league put together, which I made 8 that year. And so it was, for me, that year just came at the right time. I was ready. And it so happened that almost every game came to where they needed me. Against St. Louis, we won 12-9 on my 4 field goals in St. Louis. And, so there were, I think, if I remember correctly, I think the team scored 128 points in those 9 games that we played, and I scored 78 of them. So, it was just one of those times when you feel good, everything's in place, everything happens just right. And it so happened that year was a year that they really needed a kicker that was going to be able to go out there in those last seconds and win the game for them.
And in today's game, an NFL fan, even a person in my position, right? If I'm talking to somebody and I say, hey, this kicker won the MVP, it's unheard of. It's unheard of. You're the only one to truly do it as a true place kicker. Back then, when you were in it, though,
they
right?
usually laugh. Yeah, that's a laughable moment.
For sure. Did you realize, though, in the moment, that it was going to be that rare? The thing you were accomplishing as the first and only place kicker to win an MVP in that time, back then, did you really realize what you were accomplishing?
No, I did not. I never even dreamed I was going to do that. I never even thought about it until I got a phone call from the NFL stating that I was in the final 5 for the NFL MVP award. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I didn't even know I was up. Back then, it wasn't, it was a big deal, but it wasn't, I guess, that big of a deal because you never got any. Today, I do not have a trophy. I don't have a letter. I don't have anything that says, other than I have matted and framed a copy of the front page of the Washington Post saying that I was voted the NFL's MVP. That's the only thing that my grandkids, that's the only thing they're going to have to know that their grandfather was the NFL MVP, because I don't have anything to prove it.
That's wild.
I got a phone call. I did get a phone call.
That is insane. Because you would think, like, today, right, you could reach out to somebody in the league and get a trophy, get something, especially as the only place kicker to win MVP. I had no idea that was a thing, Mark, and I'm sure that is a very interesting conversation to have with the grandkids.
Oh yeah. Now today the MVPs get a car. Most people have it in their contracts, for bonuses for any things that they do. I didn't even have that in my contract. I didn't have anything for bonuses. I had some bonuses for setting records. That's the only thing that I was going to supposedly get for setting. Because I broke 5 NFL records that year, and but I got nothing for it because they didn't want to pay me for them. They kind of claimed that they weren't, because every time I kicked another field goal, I set a new record. Once I broke the original record, and then I had a couple of other records that I broke that year, but I never got paid for them.
Wow, that is
so.
insane.
It ended up the biggest bonus that I got that year was from Nike. That was my first year. No, it was my second year to be on the Nike All-Pro team, and in that contract for setting any records or being All-Pro or anything or MVP. There was a $20,000 bonus that I got, and that was the only bonus that I got that year for being the NFL MVP. And that was voted on by my teammates on the Nike All-Pro team.
Wow, those are things I think when you look back, especially somebody like me who's from a different generation, you don't realize those things that people have to do when they're a pioneer of something, because that's what you are, right? You are the pioneer for all kickers. You are the benchmark. because you were able to accomplish something that had never been done before and still hasn't been done to this day. And I think it's very impressive, but also very hard and sometimes thankless when you're the first to do something, Mark. So I think that is just wild. No trophy, no anything. But again, it doesn't take away from all the things you've accomplished. The Super Bowl, the MVP.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
Yeah.
No, you're good. All the things. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I appreciate the confidence and your comments there. It does for me. I never really thought about it when I was playing of what I was doing or what I had accomplished, other than I was proud because I never wanted to let my teammates down. That was the one thing that I learned early on in my life was that it's a team sport. Nobody's a team on its own, no matter how good you are or what position you play. And I always never wanted to let my team down. And that's why a couple of years ago, a sports writer who was writing a book called me and was doing an interview with me. And he said, I did some research. And he said, I found out that during your career, you went out 44 times in the last 2 minutes of a game to win that game with a field goal. And you made 43 of them. The one that you missed was against Green Bay after you'd kicked 5 field goals. And you missed a field goal that would have won. We lost the game 47-45. That was a Monday night game against Green Bay, and that's the only one that I missed in my career. So, that's what I'm more proud of than anything else, and that I didn't let my team. And I remember being in the locker room after that game was over with, and I just couldn't believe it, and I was so disappointed because I felt like I had really let my team down. And I remember sitting in a corner, and I still hadn't taken off my helmet or my shoulder pads, and I was bent down on my knees in a corner, and all of a sudden, somebody grabbed me by the shoulder pads and yanked me up, and it was my roommate, Dave Butts. And Dave and I were like brothers. And Butsy looked at me and he said, Moseley, he said, get your butt off the floor. He said, it was just a kick. We'll get it next week. And after that, I was fine. And, I realized that the team knew because I wasn't your typical kicker back then. I used to work out with a team. I was a quarterback in college. So the coaches would let me run quarterback plays. I would run quarterback plays against our defense during practice. I would study the game plan for our defense, and then I would run the opposing team's plays during practice. And then I was always doing something. I wasn't one of those guys that would go in early. I stayed out every practice, made sure I was running, doing something physical to make sure the team knew that if I did miss a field goal, it wasn't because I wasn't prepared. I wasn't ready to do it. And I just always felt that way. And so for me, it was just natural for me to feel bad when I missed one because that was the only one. And I didn't really know how to handle it.
Said like a true champion, worried about your teammates, worried about not letting them down. And Mark, I have to imagine that every teammate that played with you would say, oh, Mark never let us down. We were able to trust you. And this motivation you have, right? Yeah, maybe it came a little bit from those cute girls at homecoming, but it sounds like from you talking to me now that your father was a big piece of your inspiration. Now, Mark, I wasn't around back then, so I have to ask, was your father alive still when you won your MVP, when you won your Super Bowl? He was around?
Yes. My mom and dad were still alive. As a matter of fact, I took them all. I got to the Pro Bowl that year in Hawaii. I took my mom and dad, and I took my aunt and uncle, who was my dad's only sister, and her husband to Hawaii that year. And it was a really big year for our family. And because my sister, I don't know if you even knew this, but in 1979, my sister had been murdered by a guy that broke into her home and beat her to death and killed her and raped her, and for no reason. I mean, just some guy that had been out of prison for a couple of weeks for raping 3 other women, and they let him out. And the next thing you know, he broke into her house and raped her one morning after her husband had left for work. And mom and dad had really been struggling those couple of years. And this was the year that really brought our family back. I remember it almost brings tears to my eyes thinking about it. But I remember mom and dad talking about how proud they were that we as a family were able to stay together and to get through that. And that was a big year for the whole family.
Mark, I am so sorry for that loss. I'm really sorry. I mean, I know that was a long time ago. However,
Yeah,
the pain
and
doesn't go away, especially
no,
something so awful like that.
yeah, and it was during the season. We were getting ready to play. I was at practice when my dad called the park and talked to the coach, and he came out on the field and got me off. I had already gone out on the field to warm up and do my field goals and stuff before practice. And he came out and got me, and I went up and got on the phone, and Dad told me that was on a Thursday. I flew out that night. We had the funeral Saturday morning, and Dad and him were ready. They'd already booked me a flight back for Saturday night because he knew, Mom and Dad knew I had to get back. I needed to get back for the game because back then we didn't carry another kicker, and so I needed to get back for the game. I landed late Saturday night, and Sunday morning we played. I think it was New Orleans that game, and I remember almost playing it in like a cloud that was over me because I just didn't really. I didn't. I was not in my full mindset to be playing, but I knew I couldn't let the team down.
And Mark, that's why I appreciate being able to have these conversations with you all, because I don't think fans always understand what the man is going through while accomplishing all these things. And to know you were carrying this, to know you were dealing with all of this while making history, while becoming the all-time leading scorer for Washington, it's even more impressive that you were able to do that. And to me, when I look back at the things you talk about with your father and being able to share all of these moments with him, I got to imagine those got even more special after the tragedy that you all faced, getting to be able to share a dream that not only you had, but he had for you as well. Then you talk about playing. You talk about going into that game because you knew you had to play. You knew you were the only kicker there. And I know some people would be like, oh, man, that's so tough. But I got to imagine football was the escape that Mark Moseley needed in that time.
Yes, it kind of was. And it wasn't until after the season was over when it really hit me. And but it was because that was a banner year. And that was my first really big year, my first Pro Bowl year that when I really busted out and really began feeling the confidence that made me who I was. But you're right about Mom and Dad. My dad was a huge influence in my life. And he was one of those guys that was always positive. I remember him saying, if something breaks down, that there's nothing that can't be fixed. All you got to do is sit down and figure out how it's put together and then fix it. And so, in life, there was nothing that you couldn't figure out how to either win it or defeat it somehow. And so I always kept that. That's why I think in my early years, I never gave up. I was cut by 6 different teams right at the beginning to make it there before I made it in Washington in '74. And so it was, it makes you proud, but it also makes you humble, and you appreciate what you get when you do get those kind of accolades. And for me, it was just a banner time and a proud time. And now, and in the last 30 something years, I had my own businesses after I retired from football. And then I just retired from Five Guys after 24 years. And I helped to build a great company with Five Guys. We went from 3 stores when I started to over 2,000 now that we have all over the world. So, and I had the opportunity to be a big part of that growth and to help build that company. So I've been very fortunate in my life. I've been able to take a lot of controversy, a lot of bad things. You don't go through a career with having some down times, and there were a few years there where I didn't like the way I finished. I wanted to finish stronger, especially the last year that I was in Washington when I ended up getting cut after the Dallas game in '86, and I ended up going to Cleveland. I missed 6 games of that season, but was called to Cleveland my last, I think it was the last 7 games. And out of those last 7 games that we played, I won 4 of them with field goals for them. And then after that, I retired. We went to the AFC Championship against Denver, and that was the Elway drive. And so I was able to finish on a good note. But my career, I look back at my career and I can take pride in what I did because I was one of those guys that was a 100% team player, and I believed in my teammates. I love my teammates even today. I still am in very much contact with all of my former teammates and players. and I try to keep up with them. And I've been fortunate in the afterlife of football that I could help with some of them that have not been as fortunate as I have, and so it's been a good life, and I'm very proud to be able and to count myself as a commander / Redskin for all these years, and I'll always be a Redskin until they start throwing dirt in my face. And I've loved our fans. Believe me, our fans are. I don't care what people say about some of these other teams. We have the greatest fans in the world, and they never forget you. It doesn't matter where I go now. People know me, and they all pat me on the back and thank me for the career I had. So they're great fans.
Mark, the best fans in the NFL. You're not going to get an argument from me, but you also earn that respect with this fan base. You also earn that praise. And hearing this story right now, all the things you were overcoming off the field, the things you were dealing with on the field to stay on the field, I hope the fans have even more appreciation for Mark Moseley than they did before this episode. Mark, we appreciate you so much. I have no doubt both of your parents are proud of you. I have no doubt that your sister was with you on that field when you were making history time and time again. Mark, thank you so much for sharing your story, because these stories can help so many people, whether they're athletes, whether they're just regular everyday people. And Mark, thank you so much, because I'm inspired now. I know the Commanders fans are inspired. And like you said, forever a Redskin. They can't take that. Commanders family, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Next Man Up. You can stream all of the Next Man Up episodes, even last season's, on the Commanders YouTube page, or stream the audio wherever you get your podcast. We appreciate the love so much. We will see y'all Monday night for some primetime action against the Chicago Bears. Make sure to do what y'all do best. Show up and show out for our Commanders. Until next week, this is Next Man Up. I'm your host, Bryan Colbert Jr.